Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome to the latest episode of our entertainment show. As you know, in part 3 of our entertainment show, we premiere new movies or TV series that are debuting here in Ireland and the UK for this upcoming month. And up for discussion this week, well, what can we say? After 4 seasons, it's finally coming to a conclusion in terms of the disappearance of Montego Air Flight 828. The mystery of all mysteries, after 4 seasons, after what has been roughly 62 episodes, we're finally going to see what happened between that air flight on that fateful day in 2013 and how it wound up 5 years later. They're back, the all-star cast for that final 4th season, as we said, out in June the 2nd on channel Netflix, starring Melissa Roxburgh as Michaela Stone, Josh Dallas as Ben Stone, J.R. Ramirez as Jared Vasquez, Luna Blaise as Olivia Stone, Parveen Corey as Savi Bayel, and our special guest this evening, who plays Deputy Director Robert Vance, the one and only Daryl Edwards. And Daryl, it left us gripped on our seats manifests for 4 years. The pilot was breathtaking. The first 2 episodes of the series 1 captured the imagination of the world in terms of, wow, such an intriguing sort of concept. The whole Bermuda sort of triangle thing sort of played out. But always in the past, when people went into the Bermuda Triangle, they never were, dare I say, hard about it again. But this time, people sort of went into that voyage and came back in a different sort of story. So it captured the world sort of imagination. And after 4 years, dare I say, it's come to conclusion.
Coming to a conclusion, exactly. It's very bittersweet for me because
Daryl,
I'm sorry, we're breaking up a little bit, so go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, I was just going to say, Daryl, after 4 seasons coming to a conclusion, I suppose you mentioned there bitter, sort of sweet, and did you to get that vibe after those first 1 or 2 episodes that you were on to see special here with Manifest?
Well, I was actually only supposed to be in the pilot originally, that first episode. They had only written the character for that first episode. And actually, I didn't even audition for the part of Vance. I had 3 lines that I was auditioning for one of the guys in the cockpit. And then my agent called me and said, look, they want to use you for a different role. And the next thing I know, I'm at an airport with 100 people and I'm playing Deputy Director Vance. And the crazy thing about that was it was only supposed to be 1 episode, and then it was 2 episodes, and then it was 3 episodes. So they kept writing for me. And then, I became a series regular. So all of this was just kind of a dream come true for me. It's a type of show that I would watch if I weren't on it, So it was just probably the best experience of my professional life.
And I suppose, Daryl, in terms of that journey, you started off, dare I say, in a sort of a recurring sort of role, and then obviously we thought there in season 1 that you had been killed, that you had your character had met his sort of demise, but you came back with season 2 with a sort of a bang, dare I say, in terms of this undercover sort of COVID sort of detective sort of work. And was that exciting? Was that sort of exhilarating, having a mystery and mystique around your character as well, even though that you weren't involved in that fateful airplane?
It was very exciting and very unexpected. Our showrunner, our fearless leader, Jeff Rake, he called me at home one day and he said, I got some bad news for you. We got a directive from the network. They want to sacrifice a character because that raises the stakes when someone important dies. And they told me I was going to die. And I actually did not feel, I felt proud of the work that had been done, and I didn't feel down. So we shot that final episode where I died, but something weird was happening. Like the writers, a couple of the producers, they kept coming up to me and they're going, "We never see your body," and then they would walk away. Okay, so later on, I come to find out that there was a little bit of a, I guess, I don't want to call it a palace revolt, but the writers kind of like my character, and even though they were supposed to kill me, they kind of didn't want to do that. So they kept pitching back to the network that this guy can be important to us. And then at the cast party, I was the last person at the cast party at the end of that season. And the showrunner walks over to me and he says, "Look, you can't tell anybody, but just so you know, you're alive." And then and then he walks away. So that was great. That was just great.
And I suppose, Daryl, in terms of that, obviously the cast when it started off, a young, promising actress, little known about Melissa Roxburgh, obviously J.R. Ramirez and Josh Dallas, a bit more known about those sort of two, and Luna Blaise and Parveen Kaur, we could put them in the same category, but they've all become household names now in terms of Manifest, and Melissa has really exploded onto the scene. It set her up big time for her career going forward, in terms of, you can just imagine that the projects are going to be rolling in sort of thick and fast now after Manifest for her. So it really has catapulted the careers of so many people who started off in that sort of project with Jeff Rake, and dare I say, it wasn't the Sylvester Stallones or the Sharon Stones that were starting off. These were promising actors, but now after Manifest, they're really in the main light.
Oh yeah, that's the blessing of this show. None of us expected this show to be this popular internationally. We never in our wildest dreams expected that to happen. But everybody is on the radar, and it's a fantastic cast of actors. And I'll tell you something, I've been on a lot of shows. Usually on a show, there's one person that is a problem to work with or people don't like. There's always one. There's nobody like that in this cast. Everyone is wonderful. We're friends outside of shooting. We shot our final episode months ago, but we still talk to each other. So it's just been an incredible blessing, because not only do I have a great job, but I actually, have a great new family, and we all feel like that. So it has been a real blessing.
And in terms of the story writing and the script writing for a Manifest, when you saw the scripts coming your way each week for the particular episode, were you always a sense of intrigue, a sense of mystery, a mystique about it in terms of what was going to happen next? Was it almost like a little boy opening up a comic book that he would get every week from his mother, in terms of what to say, "Oh, I want to skip on to the last page to see what happens here"?
Man, you sound like you know me, because that is exactly what, like I said, if I weren't on this show, this is the kind of show that I would watch. This is the kind of show that I would love. So imagine actually being on something that you would love to be on, for it to be actually happening in real life. Josh is a good friend of mine, and every now and then on the set, I would go over to him and I would say, "Can you believe that we're getting to do this?" And then we both giggle like 9-year-old boys, because it's just the biggest thrill. It's like being in Star Wars. It's the biggest thrill.
And in terms of shooting in New York City, and obviously in JFK Airport, when you shot some of the scenes, I do believe, in terms of those airplane sort of scenes, and what was that sort of like, Daryl, in terms of those sort of opening sort of scenes? Because I imagine to set that sort of premise, sort of so much went in, and I imagine you'd only so much allotted time in terms of shooting, in terms of that. But were the airplane scenes, was that actually an inside of dare I say, a tunnel, a shed, or abandoned factory, or do you actually get to go inside a real life airplane and shoot
We
it?
shot it. We shot it at an airport. The pilot was shot at the airport, Stewart Airport. It's actually like a military civilian airport, I believe,
Okay.
in New Jersey. And like I said, I was not expecting to get that role, to get that part. But then they tell me I'm doing this part. They drive me out there to this airport. There's like a real jet on the jetway. There are helicopters flying around. There's 150 extras. It's at night. I'm in a black SUV, and there are 4 of them, and the sirens are going, and we drive up, and I am terrified. I'm terrified because suddenly I'm really, wow, this is a big deal. So I come out of the car and I walk right over to the plane, and I just improvise. I walk right over to the pilot, the co-pilot, and the flight attendants, and I say, "Where's Daly?" And then the actor playing Daly walks forward. He extends his hand to me, and I don't shake his hand. I just say, "Where did you put the plane down?" All of that was improvised. I didn't expect them to use it. They actually used it. Okay. Then came the scene where you say the line, "You've all been missing, presumed dead for 5.5 years." And I was terrified because there really was about 100 people there. And Josh Dallas and Melissa Roxburgh are looking right at me, and they're in the center. And I kind of addressed it to them. And I had no idea how it came off. And after we did a couple of takes, they just said, "All right, we got it, moving on." And I walked over to Melissa and Josh and I said, "Man, thank you for having my back in that," because I was terrified. And Josh was like, "Are you crazy, brother? You knocked it out of the park. This is manifest. This is how we do." And that's when I realized Josh is actually a 9-year-old boy, just like me. He was really excited. And Melissa was patting me on my back. And from that moment, I knew, wow, this is going to be all right. And this is going to be a lot of fun.
And I suppose, Daryl, in terms of all types of TV series, they have their high moments, they have their low moments, they have their sort of uncertain moments. And for Manifest for the 4 years, an awful lot of high moments. But there was that bit of uncertainty there after season 3 when NBC said, you know, yeah, we think we might want to see a different sort of complexion. People were saying, is it going to end like this? Is the secret or the story going to be told in terms of how it originally sort of happened? So how as I said, if he had ended after season 3 and if it hadn't been picked up by Netflix for that season 4, would you have still left with your head high, or would there have been the sense of maybe underwhelming sort of sense of maybe, yeah, we wish we had got to finish out that story?
It would have been devastating. It would have been devastating. I mean, we all were kind of devastated, you know. We all, you know, we all loved seeing each other at work, and we loved telling the story. And then when the fans just kicked in and they just kept watching it over and over and over and over again, fans from every part of the world, it was surprising. It was surprising that when Netflix got the series and it immediately went to their top 10 week after week after week after week after week. And then our showrunner, Jeff, he said, "Well, I don't want to say, but there's some interest in the show." And you didn't want to get your hopes up. You didn't want to get your hopes up. But then when we found out it had been picked up by Netflix, it was just probably the single best moment of my life. It was just amazing because it was something that was totally done by our fans. Our fans, I was in Times Square in New York City, which is like a major crossroads in New York. And they had just put up a billboard for Manifest, so I wanted to go and see it. And these 2 young kids from Germany, they're in their 20s, and they walk over to me and they say, "Excuse me, Vance?" And I look at them and they just tell me how much they love the show from Germany. It's just been the most rewarding thing ever.
And I suppose, Daryl, it's a busy time for you and a rewarding time for you as well. And those FBI roles, those CIA roles seem to suit you very well. And I do believe you have another sort of recurring role in terms of, dare I say, that sort of government sort of official role in a very popular TV show as well, coming our way later in the year. You might be able to indulge if you can and tell us a bit more.
Oh, sure. I've got a guest starring role coming up on a show called Blacklist, where I play another authority figure, an Air Force general, and it'll be coming up towards the end of this month. And I really wanted to be on the show because it's their last season. And our episode was directed by an actor many of you may recognize, an actor named Andrew McCarthy, who appeared in a lot of films in the 80s. And like Josh Dallas, who directed an episode of Manifest, like Melissa Roxburgh, who directed an episode of Manifest, Andrew McCarthy, who is an actor, he directed this episode of Blacklist, and he is brilliant. It's wonderful when you get to be directed by actors because they empathize with you and they understand what they need to do to motivate you. It was wonderful when Andrew came up to me and he's telling me about this general and he's saying, yeah, he was a prisoner of war and they did this to him, they did that to him. And that's what that line means. And it gives you that momentum that you need to carry it into the scene. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It was fun working on.
And I suppose, Daryl, in terms of Manifest, you've done the sort of 4 seasons, and obviously there's going to be still that sort of pipeline and grow for us. And maybe as time goes by, that sort of hunger is going to appear more from that fan base. And would I say a spin-off in terms of a feature type movie, if that happened in the works, maybe in 3 or 4 years' time? Is it Daryl Edwards putting a pen to paper and saying, sign me up straight away?
Brother, from your mouth to God's ears, I am there. I'm 100% there.
And I suppose, Daryl Edwards, lastly, before I go, for people that obviously an awful lot of people throughout the world have seen Manifest, but just some people that are discovering it even today for the very first time and who might be watching watching it back on Netflix, what would you say to someone out there here in Ireland that wants to watch Manifest, intrigued about it, and why should they tune into Netflix and watch all 4 seasons and even the 4 seasons? And what's in store for them?
I think it's gonna be like eating a delicious meal for you. And you can't eat just one. You can't just watch one episode. Each episode is going to lead to another episode for you. You're going to have all these questions floating around in your head. And the best thing about how our showrunner and our writers room created this series is that your questions are going to be answered. You're going to be fulfilled, but you might be left with a few more questions. If you take a look at Netflix, they actually put up an extra scene involving me that tells you what happened on the plane and the direction that we might go in if the story were to continue in some way. So that's what you'd have to look forward to.
Okay. So dare I say, Daryl Edwards, the intrigue in Robert Vance is going to continue, even though the show, in terms of it's temporary on hold. Robert Vance is the man of mystique, still going on to the future. But for the moment, time has caught up with us. Daryl Edwards, from me, Jim Conlan, to you. Stay safe, take care. God, to all our audience, do check out Daryl in his upcoming role in the Black. And do watch Netflix's popular series Manifest all over again to check out Daryl Edwards in his role as Robert Vance alongside Melissa Roxburgh, Josh Dallas, J.R. Ramirez and Louisa Blaise. But for the moment, from me, Jim Conlan, to you, Daryl Edwards, stay safe, take care, God bless.
Brother, thank you so much.
Thank you.